Hello, my friends, again. We are gonna continue streaming our project. And today we are gonna make more um, things to the project, add more interesting options that I am I think that will work with this project. So, you know what's the main point in um, every job? So if you're like working or trying something new or trying to be better, is that um, you have to practice. So whether you are like um, new or you're old or you are trying to be not a programmer but um, I don't know, anyone who is trying to make something better, you have to practice. So today we are going to continue our practice, and um, as you can see, our project has made a lot of things, and now we can even press the buttons, and they all have their own sounds. So this is a big progress, and um, I would like to point out that um, everything works in a rather interesting way. So we are using JavaScript and jQuery all at the same time. So that's how this project works, and we're going to continue developing it and making it obviously better. So as you can see, what we have done the last time is that we have button colors in an array. We have two empty arrays, so that's the game pattern and that's our pattern. We have the button clicks that store our user clicked pattern, because um, we have to store our clicks. We have the sound that we have chosen in our user choose color. We have the animation also that is stored beneath the play sound, and we have our sequence, next sequence. So this next sequence makes the same movements um, as we are doing. So it has the same like animations, it has the same sound, and it also stores the colors into its own array. So we have two arrays. We have button colors, we have pretty everything. In the end, we call the next sequence. So right now this next sequence is called in auto mode. It doesn't it's not called like after something happens. It's called in auto mode. So um, we're making a step-by-step guide, not only for you but for me too, because I'm also trying to learn how all of this really works like in real time. So there are gonna be lots of mistakes. Of course, I'm trying to not only understand how things work, but I try to bring up examples of how it should be done. And thanks to the examples and to what I see, I'm trying to learn how things actually really um, work together, because for me it's also a lot of new experience, a lot of um, new techniques that I'm using. Especially for me, it's actually I see this. So when I use this variable in here, like play sound, and then use this variable, and the sound actually comes out, it's really something like unique, because I find it also like maybe some sort of magic. So um, it's all really cool, and I find this code already appealing and already big. But in order to our project to function properly and to actually play the game, we should make um, a couple of more steps. So the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to use jQuery to detect when a keyboard has been pressed. Um, and when that happens for the first time, I'll need to call next sequence. So um, the key press button will be the first, I would say, function that is gonna be, I think, on top, because those are the buttons. I already know that they are um, more or less okay. That's when we press the buttons, but the key press should be on top of the button, because it will be the first function that will need to work. After that, the buttons should work after this key press. So in order for me to understand how to actually do it all, I'll need to go to the jQuery website, and as usual, I'll need to understand um, how we are gonna use the key press thing. So we also need to use the key documentation as usual, and let's search for key press. Okay. Um, so here we are. We have some key press events, and I can see that the key press is depreciated. Um, so it's actually not the key press like this, but it's on. So I'll need to search for anything else. And that's so strange. My headphones go off by on their own. So, and let's say we need to actually locate a key event on our keyboard. How do we do this? Well, the first thing is that I'm gonna check something. Is that maybe it's not gonna be the key press event that has been depreciated, but it will be the key down. So bind an event handler to the key down event, or trigger that event on element. And I can see that it is also depreciated. So I will use then the key press, because um, there is only on. So we will use the word on in front. It's like the on click that we used before. So then I'm gonna create this function here, and the first thing I need to understand is where is my event gonna happen, because I am thinking that this situation where um, I need to register my click, and my click on the button of my how do we call this, um, on the buttons of uh, I even forgot the name of my keyboard. Yeah, on the buttons of my keyboard. So I need to register the buttons on my keyboard. How do I do this? Um, I think there are a couple of moments. Maybe it's in here. Maybe it's somewhere else. I'm gonna check if that's possible. Okay, so I need to register my buttons, but I will need to register my buttons anywhere on this website. How do I do this? Well, the first thing I should understand is that all of this web page is called a document. So we're gonna check through using jQuery what is a document and how does it look like. For this reason, I will be using console log, and I'll be checking document like this. So I want to check that this document is this page. So I can see that if I check on the Word document, I actually have this page in here. So that's already half deal done. So I know that by pressing on this page, um, something should happen. And now my job is to make this key press event work. So how do we do this? Well, let's say that we are gonna press on this document. So we need to use jQuery. We're gonna use a Word document. Next, we're gonna use a word on. Next, we're gonna use key press. So after, we're gonna call an anonymous function because we're gonna do something. Okay, so after that, we need to look, did we actually press our button or not? I'm gonna check it this way. So here, if I'm pressing my keyboard, I can see the word key now. That means that my key press event is working. And right now there is nothing like hard to actually understand, but now we need to also check um, check if we are gonna start. How can we start a game like once? So the first thing that comes to my mind is that we have to somehow um, make a boolean value that is triggered, and this boolean value should say true only once. So how do we do this? Well, I guess that first of all I'll need to write this boolean value somewhere in here, so my computer would read it like false anywhere from my code. And this boolean value should work only once, and I'll use it on the key press event, because after pressing something on the keyboard our game should start and we should be making um, the game work. So the game should launch its sequence, and we should be able to play the game, but we should not trigger the start every time. So in that case we'll be using conditionals. So um, these conditionals, we're going to use if conditionals, and if start is false, because if that's gonna be true, if I'll put start without exclamation mark, it's gonna be true. But if I will put an exclamation mark in front, that will be false. So if start is false, which is true, that's why our if conditional will work. We should be launching our next sequence. So let's check it out. Next sequence, launching. And in here we should change start to true. Now we won't be able to trigger our start again, because in here it says true. So after that I think we should delete the next sequence, because we're already calling it on top, and if we'll be calling it in here I think it will be a mess. So now I think we should actually start our game somehow. So um, in order for us to understand did the game start or not, we need to actually also change the title of this game. So we should understand that something has happened and something needs to change. So our game, if you can see, our game starts at press a keys to start level, and in here that's a sample. So in here if we press a key we automatically have this level upped and the game actually starts. So for us to understand this we're gonna use this. So we're gonna make a level. I'll make it on, I think, on top. So I'll create a variable which will be called level, and it will say level 0. So we'll start from level 0, as I think that level 0 will be this sentence. So press a key to start, that is level 0 for us. And now we need to change the title after we check the conditionals, and after this is gonna be true we need to change our level. And let's see that we have this sentence, so it's h1, and this sentence has an ID of level title. So in here we'll be changing it into something else, let's say like this. So this is gonna be a word called level title, that is our ID, and we're gonna change the text of this ID. So this ID will be like level level. So in here now this level word will need to change, but we actually don't have um, anything any numbers added to this level. So even if we change this level, what will happen now? I'm curious to check. So it will say level 0 because um, nothing is added and nothing is made. So what are we gonna do now? We will use an increment operator, and this increment operator adds one value each time uh, we will be clicking on our buttons. How do we do this? Because for me it's also like a myth. How do we actually do it? But we'll try to use it in here. So after we click in here and our level starts, we need to use the increment operator in here, and we will be actually leveling this up like this. So this will be already 1, 2, 3, 4 after each time after next sequence is called. Let's check how it looks. Okay, it looks not so good, because now we have level 0, but usually if we actually look at this game, there is level 2. So actually we'll need to also upgrade this word in here. I will see how that will look like. So the level in here, it should change its title, level title, to text, and we're gonna make this level, whoa, like this. So I'm gonna see how that works now. As you can see, nothing is happening. Maybe it's because we pasted this code before the level that is gonna be added. Let's check it again. Okay, so now actually now it works. I'm gonna try and delete this thing from here and see how that will look like. Does it work with this word? Yeah. So actually I made a like a, at the moment it feels like this code is not needed. So because this code already is somewhere at the bottom, and as you can see, if my level is added after level title, after this thing, my level won't be seen in this level variable. So I won't be able to see that my level has added by 1. But now, because level is at the top and this operation will be made, I'll be seeing that my level is 2. And let's check it. Does it work further? No. Okay. So now we have made our first step, and this actually shows us that the first step of our game has begun. But now the next step will be also interesting, is because um, we will be checking the answers from our project. So the first thing that um, I'm thinking about is that checking answers is not an easy task, because now we'll need to remember that our game has started. So our click at the button is the next step. The next one is the next sequence. So after we start, the next sequence launches. After that, we'll need to press the button after the next sequence launches. How do we do this? In play sound and animate pressed, I think it's pretty understandable how these things work. Now, the most interesting part is that we'll need to make a function that will check our answers. And this function, I've made it at the bottom because it needs to check the next sequence and it needs to check our button click. If I would make it like somewhere on top or anything, it won't be able to check, because remember that our PC reads from top to bottom, and this check answer will need to be at the bottom after everything has happened. So um, we'll need to call this function, and we need to call it from, let's say, from our button click. It's when we click, so we need to actually save our answer and compare it to the next sequence that will be next one. How do we do this? So first of all, um, I'll be trying to make this more or less interesting, as we'll be checking an answers. I'll be making like an example, and here we'll be calling straight away. So first of all, after, how do we check answers? So we have two arrays in here. We have two arrays, so it's the game pattern array and user clicked pattern. In this check answer, we'll need to check if the game pattern array and user clicked pattern array, they are the same. So how do we we'll be doing this? We'll be using if conditionals, and we're gonna check if the game pattern, and in here we'll put 0 because the game pattern will actually display the, I'll show you first, like game pattern 0, what will it show in here? So it will show undefined because we have nothing at the 0. We didn't play the game, we didn't check what's going to happen, so it says 0, which is logical. In the array, 0 is usually undefined. So we have defined what is game pattern, we have written it, but yet there is no data inside it. So if we actually maybe I will just try to check from here, because I think we have already color red in here. So if we actually check from here game pattern and we target the 0, that is our array index, and we have color red. So if we check from this straight away, nothing will happen. So now um, now we need to check um, if the game pattern and user clicked pattern, they have the same colors. So that's an interesting like thing, because let's try to game pattern, and let's say there is red in here, and so it should be equal to user clicked pattern, and in here it will be red too. So if we actually check these two guys and console log in here, success. So I'm gonna check now if yes. So after this game pattern checks that it has also a color called red, we are logging in here a success. But how do we actually pass on the color in here? Like there should be something that is gonna pass um, not only the colors like this, because it is hard coded right now, but we should somehow pass the colors like when we clicked, when this next sequence worked, and these colors should be the same. So first next sequence works, second we click. So how do we do this? First of all, we'll be comparing, for example, gain pattern. That's how logically I think it would be right, because we're going to compare it um, so now we will be using this also variable that will be checking if the game pattern and if the user clicked pattern arrays have the same colors. So how do we do this? First of all, we need to call the check answer, but not from here, because if we call it from here, it doesn't really know right now what is going on and what did the user choose. So we will be calling it from after we click our button. So from here, we'll be calling this check answer after we used to click and chose our answer. So like this. And this button will also use the user choose color as no, not actually the user choose color, I'm a bit wrong. This button will be using our pattern. So in here I need to explain you how does this actually work. So as you know, there is a bit of a difference between length and array. So each array starts with a 0 index, but each length starts with 1 index. And if we actually try to check what um, color in the array we have, we will be actually in a sort of a problem, because if we try to call check answer and we'll be calling um, our array from here, user clicked pattern dot lengths, this user clicked pattern will be starting with 1, and thus it will be front running our if conditional. So for example, we already, if we chose the colors, for example red in the array, it will be stored under index 0, but in here to check our answer, this will be stored under 1 index. So that means we will be never trying to see what we're comparing. So in order to fix this, we actually user click pattern needs to have a -1 number like this. We will start with 0 index. So that means in here we will have a 0 and 0, and that means I don't have console login here, but that means that our array, it will be started, so it will be checked. And in order to check our user clicked pattern in here, I think I've written it right. because something I'll let change from const to let, because I think that because of const my arrays are gonna be hard coded and it will be hard to choose to change their values. So now my user clicked pattern stores, it will check the answer from the index of 0 in my array. So for example, I will have in here red, and in here red it will be as correct. So now we're gonna pass this array. We're gonna pass our answer in here using the check answer. So I need to think of a like proper name so I could understand what it's checking, and I'll name it like this, current level. So in here it will be checking the current level of the pattern of each of these arrays. We're gonna check what's going on in here. So let's see. I'm gonna check this. But I can see that the console log is not working. I will be trying to change it. So I guess I'll take this from here to here maybe so I could see what's going on. Yeah, it's undefined still, so that means that my current level, it doesn't have any things stored in there, so that's why um, we have something empty in here. That's why we cannot actually even check the game pattern, but I guess it's storing the numbers in here correctly. So we also need to write an else, because um, we need to see if there are any errors. Okay, I'm gonna check now, and it's going straight into the something went wrong, even though I don't know if it's called. I'm gonna check this again. Okay, now nothing is actually happening. So in our case it's actually checking, because if we refresh it, yeah, so it's actually checking, and we are right. I didn't write a console log in here so I could understand that that everything is working. Let's check it again. Yeah, so actually when we press the button everything works. So now the most interesting part is that after each time after we update our next sequence in here, we need to make our array also empty. You know why? Because our array is storing our uh, clicked our clicks, and every time it's storing our clicks, we should be actually starting a new array, because um, the game actually should clean our pattern and begin from the beginning, because usually we will be clicking the colors right from the beginning after each step. On each level, our user clicked pattern will need to begin from 0. So like from 0 there should be no colors, nothing. So it should be fully empty. How should we do this? Well, after next sequence starts, we should be actually having an empty array that is gonna have nothing inside it, because we'll need to repeat everything what the next sequence has done. So it will be user clicked pattern should be empty. That's why I changed my constant variable to let, because I actually changed this array later in here, and that's why I'm using the word let, because I can safely change this number. So after we are actually checking our answers, we should be able to not only check, but we should be able to play further on, because after we launched our next sequence, so after we clicked the button on our keyboard, we launched our next sequence. Next sequence has started. We need to somehow check the length of our game now, so we could actually call the next sequence after we have done this. So in here in the check answer, we'll need to use another conditional sentence. After the console log, we're gonna write if game pattern dot length is the same as user clicked pattern dot length. So if they have the same like numbers of colors, we need to call the next sequence, and I think that it shouldn't be called like straight away, but there should be something like a somewhat delay. We're gonna use a unique thing. I'm gonna check how it's called. Yeah, thank you for commenting. You know, I like when people comment. I like when people make by tutorials, but um, always try to explain yourself what is going on. That's what I am doing, because that isn't an easy task. That is really, really hard. And that actually shows you what you don't know, and how things are things are called, and how we should actually work with it. So we will be using a timer function in JavaScript, and this timer function is called set timeout. So set timeout can actually call after a certain time our next sequence again. Because if we call this sequence straight away, I'm gonna check. Yeah, you can see that everything is going really fast, so we should be calling our next sequence a lot slower, otherwise we won't be understanding what is going on. That's why we're gonna use set timeout, which has a timer function. So this timer function in here, it will be it will call our next sequence, but not straight away. So it will be set timeout. So it will have a callback. In this callback, it will call our next sequence, and in here at the end, we'll specify after what time. So now our game will look something like this. So we press a key, and now our key actually works, and our level actually works. But what if happens if we click on something wrong? Nothing. So I only see in my console log something went wrong. And now you can see that our pattern, our code is working. It's an interesting thing because I don't know if I can console log and check game pattern.length, so you could see what's going on in here. Oh, I didn't see in here. Yeah. So as you can see, this game pattern length stores in numbers. I mean the level. So I can see that there is a current level. That's why we have in here current level, and this game pattern.length stores in our level. So if the length is equal, then we continue on. So that's how it works. I think that's gonna be it for today. There was a lot of code. There was a lot of thinking about how we should make things work. And next time we're gonna make a lot of